All right, let's go right to him. Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes and Locked On ACC podcast, also does the post game for QAM for the Miami Hurricanes, getting set for Sunday night. Man, what should be a lot of fun between Notre Dame coming down here at Hard Rock Stadium to play the University of Miami. And Alex joins us right now. And, man, all this yap all off season, and here we are a couple days away. Everybody's breaking this down and experience versus the unknown, but it looks like Mario's talked about this by far being the best all-around team he feels he's ever had. What's kind of the key for you when you look at this? I know you've been asked by everybody's brother. When you break it down, what will be the key for the Canes to win this game?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and Joe, thank you for having me as always, you have to be able to limit Notre Dame's rushing attack for a number of reasons. I mean, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are, very hyped up. This is people calling them the best running back duo in the country, and maybe they are. So you have to try to limit them, keep them from completely going off. And then the other reason why you want to do that, Joe, is Notre Dame would love nothing more than to see their running game be in complete control for 4 quarters so they can take all that pressure off their first-time starting quarterback, C.J. Carr. I mean, how much easier could Notre Dame make his life if he doesn't, have to be dropping back on third downs and long when Reuben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are in his face? So, if Miami can keep that Notre Dame running game a little bit bottled up, you can put some extra pressure on C.J. Carr and try to rattle him, because it's a tall task for someone who has not started a single collegiate game in his career to have to step into a situation like this in a top 10 environment in what should be a hostile environment, we hope and we think, at Hard Rock Stadium. That's a tough spot to put C.J. Carr in. So I start there. And then on the flip side, Joe, Miami, I believe, is also going to need to run the football, and I think they can. I think an advantage Miami is going to have is their offensive line against a very good Notre Dame defensive line, but one that doesn't have, the largest of bodies. They've got 2 guys in their D-line rotation, only 2 who are over 300 pounds. One of them is at 302. I think Miami's O-line is going to be able to lean on them a little bit, and hopefully Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, and Shamar Brown are going to be able to pick up some yards.
So I guess we're all kind of curious, and we haven't talked about Carson Beck, but besides Carson Beck, who I think will be fine, he's got to have some receivers to throw to and get some separation. Who do you look at for this first game when we go out there? Because I don't think any of us know for sure who will be his number 1 and 2 targeted players that ends up having the best games in the passing game for week 1 for Carson Beck.
I think Elijah Lofton has got to be one of them, if not the guy, Miami's tight end, against Notre Dame's corners who are physical. They love to play man. They don't give you a lot of space, Joe. And I know we remember in the college football playoff when they beat Penn State in the semifinal. Now, part of this, I think, was an indictment on Penn State not having the best receivers last year. But Notre Dame didn't allow a single reception by a wide receiver for Penn State in that game. So it can be very difficult. I don't think that's going to be the case this Sunday. I think Miami is going to get some catches for their wideout, but I think someone like Elijah Lofton, Joe, who is just so versatile. Shannon Dawson says about Lofton, the ball just finds him. I've heard him say that a couple times about Elijah. I think he's going to be a really important target at tight end or wherever else he's lining up. I think that's number 1. And then also, Joe, and you were alluding to it, I look at guys who have some experience, for as excited as we've been and should be about true freshmen like Malachi Toney and Josh Moore, who have had really excellent training camps. But for a game like this, I look at a guy like C.J. Daniels, Joe, who's a 6-year senior transfer, played his football at LSU in the SEC last year. So he's played in some big games, some big moments. He's got a ton of experience. I think this is the type of game where a C.J. Daniels really needs to step up. So I look at a couple of those guys, and listen, I want the ball being spread around, believe me. But if C.J. Daniels and Elijah Lofton can set the tone, I think that can take Miami's passing game a long way.
What do you expect from Carson Beck? Everybody's got an opinion. When they talk nationally, he's one of the top 3 or 4 topics. Obviously, Arch Manning's always number 1. But Carson Beck and just how good he was, and then the little shots about the foreign car that he drives and that stuff. But what do you expect from Carson Beck?
I think it's a blessing that Miami is able to open up their season in a game this big with a quarterback that experienced, Joe. And I know that people from the outside in who either they love to hate on Carson Beck or they love to hate on Miami, there's a lot of those haters out there in both of those cases will say, hey, through 12 interceptions last year, the guy's turnover prone. Well, I mean, the year prior to that, when he actually had pass protection, a running game, and receivers who were up to Georgia's standards in 2023 compared to 2024 when his receiving core led the nation in drops. In 2023, he only threw 6 interceptions. He took care of the football. And I think that's what he needs to do, Joe, on Sunday. Now, I think both these secondaries are really good. Notre Dame's is, pretty familiar to what they had last year. Miami's is completely revamped. Both secondaries have talent. Maybe there's going to be an interception or two on both sides, but I think Carson Beck taking care of the football, playing with poise, Joe. But I think he's got to hit a couple of big throws down the field as well. And I would probably trust, the guy who's 24-3 in his career and will be playing against a top 10 opponent for the 8th time in his career. He's 5-2 in those situations. I would probably trust Carson Beck more to do that than the guy on the other side who is 0-0 so far in his college career. So poise, take care of the football, and be the leader that I think he is. I think Beck has had a really good offseason. I think he's motivated. I think the change of scenery has lit a fire under him. And I don't think he's got to light up the stat sheet, Joe. I'm not looking at like 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. But I think if he can throw for 200, a touchdown or two, take care of the football, I think that can be a difference in this game.
Donno, you were talking and makes a great stuff, and really appreciate all this stuff. It's really interesting that the secondary has been a problem. I mean, they've been at times god awful last year, especially towards the end of the year. It was so bad I didn't know if it was mental mistakes or guys just were getting beat that bad at times. It was 3rd and 12, and other teams are getting 18, 19 like it was a short pass. You see these guys running around now, and with a new coordinator, simplify things so everybody's on the same page, but with a lot of experience too with these guys they have. You just feel a lot better about the defensive secondary, don't you?
Yeah, especially, with the physicality of profiles like Xavier Lucas and OJ Frederic, that, you trust these guys a little bit more not to give up big time space. And Notre Dame's got some good receivers, Joe, Jermaine Greathouse, who had a good year last year. They brought in Malachi Fields from Virginia, who's a big physical target who transferred in there. So, but I think our guys are going to be up to the task, Joe. I mean, Frederic is over 6 foot, over 200 pounds, plays physical. Xavier Lucas, same thing, physical. I think Miami's only got one guy, maybe two now in their defensive secondary who are below 6 feet tall. It's mostly long, physical players, and the unit's completely transformed. I mean, I was listening, Joe, the other day to, one of the more prominent college football analysts out there, Josh Pate, who's now with On3 Sports, and he mentioned some of the intel that he's gotten coming from Miami people in the Miami facility is not only is Miami's defensive secondary revamped, but people in Coral Gables feel like now that could be a strength of the football team, that they think they've turned it around that much. And yeah, Sunday's going to be the first big test for that.
And we just take it for granted, but you hit it first. This thing, when you talk about strength, last year and this year of the Miami Hurricanes team, we talk O-line, and that hasn't changed. They really got to dominate. They have to. There got to be time to throw, but they do need to have a good game running the football with 2 of those 3 running backs over 220 pounds. They need to run it inside and pound people.
Yeah, I mean it's non-negotiable, and that's why I'm and who knows, the first game of the season, Joe, in terms of what the score is going to look like. Is it going to be a high-scoring game, a low-scoring game? Sometimes the first game can be unpredictable, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be a lower-scoring game, Joe. Like, I'm looking at. I think my official pick for this one is Miami 23-20, or maybe I could go 24-21, something like that. I think they're going to go under the 49.5, which, the Hard Rock app that Vegas has set for this one. But yeah, I don't think either side is going to win this game if they can't run. I think that's non-negotiable in a matchup like this, where both coaches, Cristobal, on Miami's side and Marcus Freeman on the other side, they love to have big physical lines of scrimmage and big-time running attacks.
I will say this. I've been on this, and I believe it, at the college level as well as the pro level. Experience. There's something to be said for experience, and Notre Dame's coming in after playing in that national championship game. You agree with that? There's something to be said for being on the road and winning games, and some of those guys, or a lot of them, are actually back on this team.
Yeah, and also for what it's worth, and it's a completely different group of people in that building, but they just won a playoff game at Hard Rock Stadium, about 7 or 8 months ago, the one against Penn State. So for they're all the players who are returning to that lineup will be able to visualize, hey, the last time we were in this building, we came away with a big victory. But then, of course, Miami fans, and I'll never forget this, Joe, because I was in the stadium, 2017 on that November night. That was the loudest I've ever experienced.
Yeah, we need that again. That's a good point.
It was crazy. So, again, I know Notre Dame, these players remember winning a game in that building several months ago, but Miami fans need to recreate what we had in that building back in 2018. But I agree with you. There's no substitute for experience. And, on the Miami side, obviously, to be able to have guys like Carson Beck, who's been in big games, CJ Daniels, the receiver coming out of LSU, a guy like Keontae Scott coming out of Auburn, Jacoby Thomas coming out of Tennessee, to be able to have some some players on the Miami side with experience in really big games, I think can help us.
Loud and humid, man. That's the new thing. Loud and humid is about as whatever maximum number you can get that night. Just where it's a sweat box in there is will be fun. Hey, this one's gonna be a lot of fun. What a great kickoff for both Notre Dame and the Miami Hurricanes. Alex, thank you so much, bud. Appreciate you coming on.
Joe, Hollywood, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And like you said at the top, we're getting tired of talking about this. We just want to see the football on Sunday, then we'll break down whatever happens.
You got it.